Good evening and welcome to Al-Shifaa Online TV. I am Dalila Hamza and this is the Umbrella Show. The Umbrella Show is a show that contains matters that are affecting the societies. In the society, anything that revolves around you, we discuss it over here. Under this umbrella, we have a special guest in the studio, Mr. Michael Nato. And today, being the International Youth Day, we mark it with a grand style as we learn, as youth, what importance do we perceive in this day? Is it about job opportunities? Is it about our rights? Is it about building every career that we have to? What is it about us and what is important in this special day? Know your rights. And the question is the youth ready to embrace change? Because they're the big change in the society. Welcome, I'm Dalila Hamza, and my guest on my left is Mr. Michael Nato. Mr. Michael Nato, you look so rejuvenated, so happy. Is it because of the Youth Day or something else?
Yeah, obviously it's because of the Youth Day. Yeah, because you have to celebrate our youths, and I'm very happy to mark this day.
And coronavirus has hit us rock bottom. So how was you at home? How is everything faring?
At first, it brought me the wrong way. But with time, we have known how to live with it. Because that is life, you know. Problems just come in, they won't end. There is no end to problems coming in, but it's how you deal with them. And as youth, we have to take the lead in trying to find solutions for most of these problems. Yeah.
Viewers, change is inevitable. COVID-19 has struck us, but we're still putting up a smile and putting up a wave. Today is the International Youth Day. People are actually celebrating it in a grand way across the globe. As a youth, how are things at home? How are you perceiving things, or how are you seeing them?
Yeah, the going is rough, just as you have mentioned, COVID-19. But the good thing is that we are here even today. We have survived, and we shall continue surviving. I know there is some little death toll, and it has not consumed our youths. That is the better part of the whole thing. But one thing I must say, Dalila, is that youths have played a significant role from time past, even the days of the prophets. Most of them started their missions as youth. So it's just about reclaiming that lost glory. Because no, the government has been, most of the governments in the world have been trying to frustrate the youth because they fear the numbers. But it's up to the youth now to wake up and embrace the change, and also have the confidence that they also can make a change, just as they have shaped our history.
Viewers, if you are tuned in, this is the Umbrella Show with me, Dalila Hamza. Matters that concern you. If you want to send your feeds or you want to call through our numbers below your screen, 0753 444 999. The topic today is the youth today in engagement to the youth empowerment today. So as you continue to send your feeds, today is a significant day, the rise of the youth.
Yeah, the importance of the International Youth Day is just to celebrate some of the achievements that youths have contributed to the world, not only in Kenya, because we have seen very big innovations that have made life easier. Let's take, for example, Mark Zuckerberg, when he invented Facebook. You see, he was only 20 years old. So most of these Mark Zuckerbergs are just in the society. And those are the people that we are supposed to remind that they should come out with the innovations. But I know you have a challenge in Kenya. You see, when you read the story of Mark Zuckerberg, you'll find that there was one Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel was a billionaire PayPal co-founder. And he injected some money into the idea of Mark Zuckerberg. So when we get more Peter Thiels and promote the youths and promote their talents and their ideas, I think the youths, we are going to go far, and we are going to contribute to most of the solutions that to the problems that bedevil the whole world.
Yes, the youth themselves, you've talked about the way they've developed, they are young innovators. Where do they go or where do they start giving out their talents?
You know, when we look at the context of our developed countries, there are people out there who are willing to support them. But when we come back to our own country, I've seen youths with very great innovations, but no supporting hand. Because when I just gave an example of Mark Zuckerberg, he needed some $5 million to make his idea viable. But somebody just chipped in and gave him the money. But when it comes to Kenya, a lot of talent is being lost because the government is non-committal on the issue of trying to promote the youth ideas. It's just the other day that I saw the beds from those Kiambu boys. But so many such like ones are out there. So it's high time also the government should come out and start making the youths coming out and sharing and showcasing their initiatives. Yeah.
So, in your organization, what do you do mostly as Michael Nato?
In my organization, I try very much to involve the youth in governance issues because it all narrows down to the issue of resources. And on our end, we don't have the resources, but government has resources. But when you look at the numbers, sometimes they're not so impressive. When you go to the public participation forums, where now you are supposed to give out your proposals. And some of the proposals are maybe financing your innovations. But I was saddened one day when I attended one of the forums, and it only had 40 people. And when I counted the youths, there were hardly 10. You see, eh? So my organization is trying to encourage the youth to come out and reclaim their money, their taxpayers' money, because that is the money now that can be used at least to make sure that whatever they have in store comes out there for the benefit of the world.
COVID-19 has hit the public and the rest of the world at rock bottom. The youth are now at home and the crime rates have increased because we've seen several headlines where youth are involved in crimes, several crimes. What could be the way forward with this?
I think, Dalila, it's a wrong notion that being youth or youth is a pretext of crime. It's a very wrong notion. There are very good youths out there. There are also similarly people past the youth age who are criminals. But what I'm trying to stress here is that there's that relationship between poverty and crime. Anybody bedeviled with crime has the potential to become a criminal. You see, whether you are seeing juvenile gangs, those are not youth. I'm right to assume. If you are talking about youth, then we have to look at the constitutional provision. At chapter 17, it is clearly defined that a youth is between the ages of 18 to 35. You see, so those are the people that we are talking about. Below that age, those are children. And above that, that is something else until we go up to 60 years when we have the older members of the society. So crime is about poverty. When you reduce the poverty levels by coming up with good economic policies, you see, then the crime rate automatically disappears. But anybody has the potential to become a criminal. Now that we are talking about counseling, now that is a very important aspect of this whole issue. Because now we have to have a multifaceted approach in this issue of youths and crime. You know, there is this issue, mental issue, and it has been ignored for a long time. You see, there are mental health issues. You see, there's a lot of research that has been done But when you sell some of these ideas to government, that maybe this is a health issue, they ignore it because they don't want to commit resources, maybe. You see, because now, let's take for example the Coast Province.
Yes.
It has only one psychiatrist. But a condition like ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder can make someone behave as a criminal. And yet that is just a normal sick person who needs help. You see, so most of these people that we call criminals are just people crying out for help because maybe they are disturbed somewhere. But you're not strengthening our health institutions to accommodate such patients. You're not training enough professionals to accommodate the numbers. Some are even suicidal. It's just the other day, the area that I come from, Igahim, and a teacher committed suicide. That's really? Depression, yes. Yeah, because of COVID, it kicked them out of job. Depression, Depression is a known mental illness. And it can predispose one to crime. So it should be a multifaceted approach. Not only talking to, sometimes you are dealing with a real illness that needs treatment. Do you talk to somebody who has malaria just talking to him, or do you seek medication for him?
You have to seek the doctor's advice.
Yes, so the same applies to mental illnesses. Some of these kids out there are just sick.
Well, you heard it. If you are tuned in, this is the Umbrella Show. You can also send your views to the numbers below your screen. Is there a need for us to point fingers at each other? What's happening? Is there a difference between the youth today and the youth that was just the other days? What could be the big difference? You can also chip in your explanations, and you can also give your feedback to us, and we will be appreciating that. The number of teenage pregnancy, quite disturbing, if you ask me. It's another pandemic in Tokyo. Oh, it's quite disturbing. What's really happening? Where are we going wrong for this teenage pregnancy to increase double the number? And being another headache, another pandemic, because we have our sisters who are younger than us, and it is quite saddening that they have to drop schools, because some of the notion in other society in Kenya, when a child or a youth gets pregnant, there's this notion they cannot go back to school simply because they are shy of their pregnancy. What would be the way forward for them?
First, I would try to use the common saying that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. And I was a little bit saddened by the measures that the government put in place for containment of COVID-19. I was even in the front line trying to question some of them because they were just copy-pasted from some developed country out there. But sometimes, Dalila, it's good to come up with homegrown solutions. Maybe our measures would not be what we had copied. They close schools, we also close schools. Maybe our immunity is stronger, but we disregard that. You see, okay, now what is the way forward? The way forward for our girls out there is just go back to school. Because what has been done now cannot be undone. I totally oppose abortion. I am a frontliner in opposing abortion. So let them give birth because they are giving birth to life. No life has come here by accident. Even maybe if you ask my parents, they will say that maybe you are not planned for you. Maybe it was also a product of unplanned pregnancy, you never know. But after that, now as part of the way forward, we just go back to school. But next time, if we are faced with the same predicaments, like the COVID-19, we need now to think within our context. Solutions do not necessarily have to come from outside. I've seen Tanzania doing a commendable job. They explored their nutrition, they explored so many of what could be found within the borders of Tanzania. And that was the best approach.
Some of the parents claim that their daughters are quite young to actually carry the pregnancy. Others are traumatized. So they find it that abortion might be suitable for them. But this still is saddening and heartbreaking, because when you look at the number, it's quite disturbing. But for us, as Kenyans or as human beings across the world, we need to engage ourselves in a different view, the way you've talked about having ideas from home. How can we make them understand, especially the parents, you see? Like, I come from a Swahili community, and whenever a youngster is pregnant, actually, some of the parents says, "Hii ni aibu. We cannot continue. It's either you get married or you commit to abortion." You see, at that position, the child might not be in the right mind, so they go for the abortion. So how do we tell the parents that this is not necessary? They can still give back and go back to school. How do we convince this society that we have? Because trust me, Michael, it's quite hard.
That's what I was saying. If you check on us, and most of us are also products of unwanted pregnancy, either unplanned or just unwanted. Some are even doing well, but they are products of teenage sex. So when you claim that abortion is the route to follow, you're trying to bring up this situation of digging a hole so that the soil from that hole could fill another hole. If you're given a task, fill this hole, what will you do, Dalila? You'll find for soil to fill that. You don't dig another one, because that's another problem altogether. Now, they're forgetting that if the daughters are traumatized, abortion will traumatize them for the rest of their lives. You know, it's killing.
Yeah.
It's a life that is lost. And what does the Constitution say, Article 26? Where does life start? At conception. That's murder. So now if somebody says that murder so that you can go back to school, murder so that you feel well, murder so that you negate your trauma, is it even scientific? You see, so those are the questions that I pose for the viewers, for them to make a more informed take out of this issue.
When you talk about the youth today, compared to the other generations, is that they used to listen. You can sit down with your brother or sister and explain things to them, and they understand you quickly without thinking that you were judging them. But the ones we have in this modern time, it's so hard for you to talk to them and tell them that this is the wrong thing. Do this and that and this and that, for them to really listen. So the difference between us and them is quite big. What brings about this difference?
The difference comes about by so many factors coming into play. You see, the population was small during those times, and these migrations were not happening drastically as they are happening now. You see, like in my case, my father came from the western parts of Kenya, and I was born in Mombasa. I have no intentions at all to go back to western parts of Kenya. I totally disconnected. I don't even have inheritance. Those places I had, they shared amongst themselves, the uncles, and so I have nothing. There's nothing at all for me. Now what do I do? Should I just sit down and start crying? You see? So during those times, it was a communal responsibility. Your mother, your auntie, and all those people. But when you look at maybe like in my case, it was just up to my parents. But my mother was overwhelmed with that feeling that Mombasa is not a place to stay, so she relocated back to where she came from. But I'm not going to do that anytime soon. You see? So you just have to know how to live with that change. But we've just asked a very important question. Were they better than us? It's not that they were better than us, but they had less challenges. You are growing up knowing that I have an inheritance, but we are not in the same situation. So we need to explore other solutions apart from those that were workable for that generation. Because we are a different generation with different challenges. I also have my boys. They are 100% Costarians now. Now what do I do? I cannot sit down and start crying. I just have to know how I can mentor them to be responsible adults with the context that I have.
Indeed, indeed. If you're watching the program, this is the Umbrella Show. It's all about the activities and matters that are affecting you. Our topic today is the Youth Day. Is there any difference? Do you feel like you want to tell us something about it? Should we make changes, knowing that today is the Youth International Day? When you go to the violence, a lot of violence has been seen in the society because the GBV, actually, it's affecting both genders, female and males, and the cases have risen. Where are their voices? How can we help them out? Because the cases are increasing daily. So what measures should we take or we cope with it?
You see, that's why I brought another important aspect in this issue of youth and violence and crime. That is mental health. You see, and that has been disregarded, has been ignored. But there are certain mental illnesses that bring out behaviors, these funny behaviors. You see, let's take for example, a sickness, a mental sickness like HSDD, hypersexual desire disorder. Those are the people out there you shall call wars and such like things. A sickness like bipolar disorder, I think you have come across it.
Yes.
You see how it affects the behavior, and there are 200 mental illnesses. So what am I saying? That some of these behaviors can be corrected through medical intervention. You see, not through the guns. You see, like drug abuse and substance abuse. You know, a sickness called alcohol use syndrome. You see, and there is also another important aspect in this issue, nutrition. Are our people eating right? That's why you also asked about the use of old and the use of today.
Yes.
But they had better food. They used to consume these important nutrients. You see, like the brain, it needs omega-3 for proper functioning because 13% of the brain is omega-3. Do you see youths now consuming adequate measure of fish? You see, it's a nutrient that is lacking in our food nowadays. You see, so those are the things that we are supposed to promote. All departments should work together. But when it comes to youth and violence, we leave it to the police. Now, what are police trained to do?
They're meant to capture the one who's guilty.
You see,
Yes.
and maybe that is not the best solution. So our health department should be into this issue. Our security personnel should be into this issue. Creating awareness should be made. Civic education is lacking. You see, there was a time I challenged some youths and I just asked them, how do we get development in our counties? And you know what they told me? They told me it's out of goodwill from the governor.
Oh.
You see, they don't know that it's the taxpayers' money, and they don't know that they have a right to participate in that process. They don't even know that those processes usually do take place. So institutions have failed. And that is where now we as the civil society come in, just to tell them, you need to assume your forgotten roles.
You talk about the rights of the youth. Can we break them down so that the viewers out there, especially the youth, may know their rights? What should they perceive? What should they expect? Is it time for them to embrace that? Are they not ready? What should they do? And can we break it down to them so that they can understand their rights and stand for themselves?
I will split. When responding to that question, I'll split the youth into two groups. There's some who are just enjoying themselves. I know I came to talk this issue somewhere and somebody corrected me, thought it best to correct me, that that was an absurd statement of trying to group youths into two categories, of the first class and the second class. There are youths who are enjoying the Kenyan dream, if at all it exists. You know, now the government, how it puts things, it's putting them as if what you're supposed to go for, you see, are these tenders and the jobs that are available. But you see now, we are celebrating the International Youth Day. We are supposed to also celebrate the innovations, the good initiatives that youths themselves have put forward that are trying even to create jobs. But because Kenya is controlled by the so-called haves, you see, their youths are enjoying. Because when you look at the cases of corruption, you'll see also some youths are in those cases. I could give example, it's just that it's not proper, you see. So when we come to issues of youths, we also have to apply the other provisions of the Constitution. Like Article 27, it talks of the freedom from discrimination. You see, it also talks of social justice. Because they are youths of two different social classes. But the first class youths are good. But the youths that come from a background like myself are the ones that we are supposed now to talk about. Those are the ones who are engaging in crime. Those are the ones who are being implemented.
So they just need to be modified a little and then they will be okay.
They need to be listened to first, but nobody's listening to them. Because the biggest of youth, just as I've said, is being abused. They tell you that 30% of tender should go to youths. Dalila, those 30% of tender to the youths, they usually reach the youths. But ask yourself, who are those youths?
Well, it's getting hot in here. I don't know, I should take my umbrella up or... Okay, Michael, tell us.
There's God who are those youths, and we know some of them. It's just that you won't allow me to mention some of these names. But we know them. 30%, even more. But the politically correct youths. That's why I and my organization are endeavoring to protect the so-called second-class youths who have no influence, who are not politically correct, who have good ideas and nobody's listening to them. And these are the first-class youths, in fact, they are not that clever. You know, when you have money, you don't commit so much to thinking.
So you say that you take the other class of youth. So if they want to join you or they want to come to you, is there a protocol to observe? Do they pay? Or how do they go about it?
I just know where they live. The sheer mention of settlement gives you a rough idea of the kind of youth that you shall find there.
So if other viewers perhaps want to follow your organization and they don't know how to reach, how do the viewers reach to you, the young generation which is looking at you at the moment?
Me in particular?
Yes,
Or
they want to
people-
cry out to you. They want their voices to be heard through you. How can they get through you?
Okay, I come from Migadini, but I won't lie to anybody. But I'm the panacea of the youth problems. But what I'm saying is that let also youth out there refuse to be used. You see, because that is another aspect of this problem. You see, some of our youths are also sell out. Because, you know, the biggest problem that we're having in Kenya, Dalila, is the political problem. We have a problem with the political leadership.
A disaster.
Disaster. In fact, some of these people that we are electing have never suffered any problem. Have never experienced even pangs of hunger. Now, how do you expect somebody like that to understand you? So if 70% of the Kenyan population is poor, then 70% of the youth is also poor. So when we talk about the youth, we should also talk about alleviating poverty. We should also talk about pushing for the participation of youths in governance issues. You see, the CRA has opened the Pandora's box. It's just now that people are trying to understand, oh, there is 15%, you see, because most of these senators are trying just to redeem themselves from failed leadership that they have practiced for the last 3 years. Now they have seen an opening platform. But that has been the situation. You see, and when I delve a little bit into that issue, I hear of issues like Mandera. But in Changamwe, there are two billionaires from Mandera. What are you doing from your for your ancestral place of where you came from? Now, you do not expect that you, as a billionaire, you have run from your ancestral place. Now, how will government then be tempted even to put up any investment if you yourself, you are not there?
Talking about leadership, does our youth have the capability to lead? Is there a need for them to realize that they need to step up, they need to go out there, they need to elect themselves? Because some say, you have to have experience for you to be running for a particular seat in parliament, so they just leave it at that point, neglecting that they can be able to do more than that. What push do they need, perhaps, so that they realize that they can also stand for themselves and act upon their rights and stand as leadership?
Okay, the biggest undoing for our youths is that they have been conditioned to believe that leadership is for the old. They have also been conditioned to believe that leadership is all about handouts, and yet they don't have the resources. But what I want to urge my fellow youths out there is that so long as you have a good track record, because track record is what anybody out there should look for. What has this person, there's that assumption that what you have been doing is what you shall continue doing. That's why so many funny people out there who have been mentioned adversely in issues like corruption are still doing corruption even in leadership. Dalila, look at you. You are doing a very good service to all the viewers that are looking at you now. I'm right to assume that is the good service, the very good service that you shall continue doing even when you are a leader. But sometimes, because of those empty strategies, those harmful strategies that we are meant to believe that people have to drink tea, you see, such like things, is when we end up with people with no track record. But I've seen youths with a very good track record. Very good track record. They have been impactful to the societies out there. Now they need to sell that idea that, look at me, I'm capable. But the youth themselves, who are potentially can become good leaders, do not have the confidence. And their fellow youths think that these are positions of the old. So that is the tricky situation that we find ourselves in. But there are youths out there with a brilliant manifesto, with a brilliant track records, who can become good leaders. And we have examples. We have examples.
What are the challenges that you're facing as an organization?
Challenges, most of the times, is lack of support. You see, most of the programs need funding. And most of the funding goes to the big organizations. So, you have to go to them and maybe try to beg from them. Because, okay, there are some, resources, it's four types. There's resource money, there's resource manpower, there's resource material, and resource time. So I have most of this, but I lack resource money. And there are some things that you need money, maybe hiring a hall, let's take for example, maybe you want to teach the youth something. But the biggest undoing for any organization, not only mine, is lack of funding. That is the elephant in the room.
So despite you having problems in the funding, what else do you do? Because if you don't have the fund, apart from that, do you cancel them or do you go door to door? How do you do it?
That's what I'm saying. Of the three other resources, I've got time. I've committed my time when I came here. I've resource manpower. I have knowledge, maybe I have information, and I can share it. And also I have some little material, learning material that I can share. But when you want to reach a bigger audience, now money comes in, you see. So in my little way, I've been useful as a person and also as an organization. But thinking of expanding now, the critical issue of money now has to come in. Okay. Yes.
In Kenya, the rate capped at least 39.1%, Tanzania being 24%, while Uganda is attributed to the fact that the most young people have developed into agriculture, hence bridging the gap between informal job sectors. So is it that the youth in Kenya being 39.1%, do we depend on white-collar jobs or we just sit around? Because we see that Uganda are attributing themselves in agriculture, in their lands. Is there a big difference between us and them?
I think the disparity comes about because of the level of corruption in our country. I just heard the other day, I don't know how true it is, maybe 800 billion could be on the lower side. But maybe on the higher side, we could go up to 1 trillion that is lost through corruption. Dalila, just ask yourself, how many jobs can 800 billion create? You see? So our biggest problem is corruption. You see, sometimes we use examples like Singapore, but Singapore put itself on the right trajectory in 1965 after electing a person who decided to fight corruption. If you are not losing resources, then resources can be put into good use. It's funny seeing a whole Senate fighting over 316 billion. And yet behind the scene, 800 billion is lost. You see, how many jobs has devolution created? A lot of jobs. And the budget for devolution, 316 billion, is not even halfway of the money that is lost through corruption. And there's the other problem also that I talked about of government not listening to its youth because they have innovations. And I have examples of even a youth that I know. He had this big innovation and he only needed 30,000. I told him, okay, I don't have that money, but let us try soliciting for it. And we just went everywhere. And his idea would create jobs, and I knew it. Because by the look of things to you, you can just see a good idea when you just, at its face value, 30,000. But 800 billion is lost to some few individuals.
Let's take a look at our social handles. We see that Halima from Kakamega says that, is there a need for us to stand up for our rights? And even if we do not know where to start. Halima is telling us that. She doesn't know where to start.
The simplest place to start, Harija,
Yes.
is on the ballot box. Okay, it will be delayed development, but that is the easiest. Now, the harder one is to confront your government, to participate during these public forums. Participate just in everything that needs you. Because it's a constitutional provision, let her read Article 10. You see, but the public participation is paramount. But when I attend these meetings and people are not there, then I don't see the seriousness. So the harder part, Hadija, participate in all public forums. And the next strategy, vote wisely.
Okay, another message from Senator Ntangazadi. Wow, amazing. He says his name is Abubakar, coming from Mombasa. He says that what a great show and he's enjoying it right now. Thank you, Senator, for your feedback. Interesting. So the society needs to change its views accordingly. In being youth, we are the big number and we can change the society. But as we continue to change the society, should we not mend our ways? We should, right?
Yes.
So it's been a great session having you here in the Umbrella Show with me, Dalila Hamza, and my guest over here who's been so amazing, Michael Nato. Thank you for coming to the show. We'll see you next weekend with more amazing and loving content. Remember, on Wednesday we have the Umbrella Show with me, Dalila Hamza. Hope you have a lovely, lovely evening.